Alright, where is my note card? Here it is. It has been about a year and 2 months since I made my original Adoptables video, and that is the video that I owe basically my entire channel fame to. So, in that video I talked about complicated designs, and complicated designs is a topic that I've always wanted to talk a little bit more about because there's a lot of conflicting opinions about complicated designs in general. Are they good? Are they bad? Is it overcomplication? Are complicated designs in their entirety like always bad, always good? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I have always had kind of a negative look on complicated designs simply because I come from a standpoint of being an animator, right? And in animation, you kind of want simpler designs, specifically traditional 2D animation. You're going to want simple designs because you're going to be drawing those designs over and over and over and over again. And if you have complicated designs, that's going to make that process a lot more difficult. And somebody is mowing their lawn outside. I'm so sorry if you hear that. Personally, I am not a big fan of complicated designs because they're hard to draw. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad, right? Personally, I think that designs can become overcomplicated, and that's when I just think that they become total messes and they're just not any fun anymore. So the point of a design is you want to make a good design, right? Unless there's some reason that you don't want to, but chances are you want to make something with a good design. I think that a lot of young artists, especially on DeviantArt, kind of get this idea that they have to have really detailed, complicated designs in order to make things good. And this can go for any sort of design, whether it's an animal with like 1,500 million spots and stripes on it, or some sort of character with like 18 million 18 million belts and like straps and gears on them. Like, it can go either way. But the Adoptables community, I see this a lot in. Specifically, I see it when people sell animal characters. The designs are very, very like striped and spotted and have all these like little like flecks and things on them. And personally, that doesn't make the design really appealing to me. However, some people enjoy that, and that's fine. That personally is just a bias of mine. However, I can understand that some people don't really mind that as much. Or I want to talk about why that's really not what you should be doing when you're trying to create a design. Because adding 18 million freckles and speckles to your design doesn't make it good. What makes a design good is, in my opinion, a few different things. First of all, recognizability, which is like how recognizable is the character, how well the colors come together, and how much the design reveals about the character. Basically, if you put those three things together, those are what make a good design. First of all, recognizability is something, especially if you're going for a main character, is really, really important. If you're looking for a main character in a story, you want to make sure that the audience like remembers what they are. Now, if you don't have a character that's like a main character of a series or something that you're creating, it's not as big of a deal, but eventually you're probably going to, so just keep this in mind. A lot of mascots you can see this with, for instance, Kirby. Kirby is literally, I love to use Kirby as an example because he's literally a pink blob with arms and feet and a face. Like, that's it. Yet, like, he's so recognizable. Same thing for Pikachu, for Mario. They're all very recognizable characters, and they're all very simple designs. So how do you make a simple design recognizable? Well, there's a few different things. You can just kind of, like, play around with the design, but one thing I've noticed really helps it is adding specific shapes and then a recognizable silhouette. Most of these characters that I just mentioned, you can recognize them from their silhouette, right? That helps a lot. And what I mean by shapes is Kirby's literally a circle, right? All of his like shapes somehow come back to being a circle. Mario has lots of circles. Actually, so does Pikachu. They all have lots of circles, but you don't always have to use circles. However, making your character exaggerated in its shapes definitely helps the silhouette come along. And also, when you exaggerate your character's shapes, it makes them more unique. So for instance, a lot of times when I see people making adoptables on DeviantArt, they're using one base for the character. So basically, it's the same line art and shape and everything. You're just changing the actual, like, design of their fur or, like, whatever, or maybe their clothes or something. But you're using, like, the same, like, body. And I think that that's really hindering to a design. I say the word hindering a lot. I think it's really detrimental to a design because there is so much you're missing out on when you're not taking into account the body, okay? Because you can make the character tall and scrawny, or wide and like bulky, or any number of things, tall and bulky, you know what I mean? And that can help make a design stand out from the other ones. You can make it maybe be a little bit more expressive, which brings me into the other part of how much it reveals about the character's personality. If your character is kind of like, you know, has a pose, it's like, oh, kind of shy, well, what does that tell you? That the character's probably shy, you know what I mean? But when you're just having a character that's just like a kind of like a chill smile, and all the other ones have the same like weird smile, it's like, that does not tell me anything about the character. What does this character like to do? And you can tell the audience, you know, oh, this character likes this, this, and that, but show, don't tell, basically. You want to show that in the design, don't just tell us that as like a likes and dislikes thing. I feel like the likes and dislikes thing becomes more of a crutch than a tool when you're using that instead of like trying to incorporate some of the things into the character's actual design. Like, obviously, you can't tell everything about the character from the design, but it definitely helps if you put maybe something, like, for instance, a little bit of their base personality traits, also maybe their occupation. For instance, Bismuth from Steven Universe, she's a blacksmith, right? She's wearing, like, this apron, she's kind of big and bulky, and she has a hand hammer, right? Her hand can shapeshift into a hammer. She does that a lot. She kind of looks like a blacksmith. You can kind of tell that. Most people kind of guessed that she was going to be a blacksmith from her design. Also, bismuth is a type of metal. There you go. See all those elements that incorporate and come together for a design? That's an example of a good design. Okay, next thing is color. Color is a huge thing, and there's a lot to it. Basically, first of all, color theory. Color theory is this, it's not as hard as I think a lot of people say it is. Basically what color theory is that certain colors look better together than other colors. That's basically the core concept of it. People can glam it up and say all these detailed things about it. I don't think you have to take a class or anything to understand it. Just look it up. There's countless videos on it, countless articles and everything on it. Basically, you use the color wheel. Opposite colors on the color wheel are complementary. You can use those two colors together on a color wheel, and it'll make your design look very nice. Monochromatic is like when you have a bunch of colors, when they're the same hue, but they're different shades, so like a dark blue, a light blue, a middle blue, mid blue, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. One thing that I would say to beginner designers, and I see this a lot, is that please, for the love of God, don't use super bright colors, okay? Save our eyes, it doesn't look good. Even if you think it looks good, you're gonna look at this like 2 years from now and be like, why are my colors so bright? Just don't do it. Don't choose super bright colors. If your color on like your color picker is like all the way up there to the top right corner, that's not a good thing. If you want a bright color, you can put it like midway there, kind of in the middle to the right, but you don't want to have it super, super bright. And honestly, having it there in the color chooser, it looks brighter than you think it is, especially if you put a bunch of more mellow, duller colors, and then you put one bright color next to it, it makes the color look much, much brighter. There's a motorcycle outside. Why are you doing this to me? Don't undervalue duller shades, okay? Because you can do a lot with colors and you can play around with them depending on which colors you put next to it. For instance, if you put like a bluish gray and then you put it next to a red, it's going to look even more blue than it actually is. Or a true gray next to a red will look bluish, even if it's not actually having a blue tint to it. So just things like that. I'm not gonna go super into it, but you can look up a bunch of different videos. Holly Brown did a really good video on it. I know she's kind of canceled, but it's okay. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video because I am an intermediate level artist, I would consider myself. I'm not an expert on any of these topics, which you may be thinking, why are you making a video if you don't know what you're talking about? Well, I wouldn't say that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I have learned all of these things from experience. I feel like it's a lot less intimidating if one artist to another artist that's not like a super professional. If somebody like that tells you it, I think it's a little bit less intimidating and daunting, and it's just kind of like a buddy to a buddy kind of thing. Like, here's some things to help you out. I do this because I was not very good with designing at all. The colors I used to choose were just very ugly. I didn't know how to reveal about a character with their designs. Most of the characters' designs that I have from like 2 or 3 years ago, they're terrible. I don't like them. And I learned most of this from like watching other people, but it took me like 3 years to learn all of this, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna try to save you guys some time. And I know that a lot of my audience is younger artists, so just take this into advice. Adoptables, I see this so much with adoptables, is that they're just designs. They don't have any heart put into them. And when I mean that, I mean they don't have any personality. They're just kind of like, this one's blue with green stripes. This one's red with yellow dots. Like, there's no substance to their personality there. And I get that it can kind of be open for interpretation to whoever buys it, but oftentimes I don't see that actually happening. If the adoptables community just tried to put more effort into making their designs more interesting, I think it would become a lot more fun personally. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. Anyway, these design tips can really apply to anything. I was just kind of making this as a little bit of a follow-up to my adoptables video, but really it's kind of standalone too. Put your all into a design. And also, if this helps too, look at designs from TV shows and stuff like that and see what about that design makes it good. What does it tell about the personality of the character? Why do the colors go together? Things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's gonna be about it for this video. Just do the usual, like, subscribe, all that stupid stuff everybody tells you to do. And I will see you guys later, I guess. Peace.